Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then we're available on demand, and we're available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Monday, September 11th, 2023. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Hotspots Magazine Happening Out Television Network is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but it is designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission is to support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbians and queer women, trans, students and youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, businesses, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network. Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, let's welcome anchor FayWhat. She is a radio and television personality and is the host of the FayWhat Show, the first LGBTQ plus morning program Mondays at 9 a.m. and then on demand on all streaming and social media platforms. She's also a hostess and MC for many South Florida events. Welcome, Faye.
Hello, boys. So happy to be here. And if you missed this morning's FayWhat show, make sure that you catch it on demand. We had the amazing Mateo Ventura Brewer from the Aqua Foundation for Women. He is the executive director of the Aqua Foundation, and he was in bed with me for an interview, folks. That was it. All right, make sure you watch it.
And congratulations, nominated for Out South Florida's TV personality.
But you were nominated too, Al, so we're winning this shit. Yep. One of us is getting it and bringing it back home.
That's right. And John Hayden.
And John Hayden.
Yeah. All right, next, let's welcome anchor Jacob Reide Jennings, a professional ballroom and Latin dancer turned real estate broker and philanthropist. Jacob leads the Sherlock Holmes Foundation, a nonprofit 501c3 to address LGBTQ plus and youth housing insecurity. Welcome, Jacob.
Thank you for having me, and my nomination must have gotten lost in the mail.
Wait till next year. Next, let's welcome DJ Eric Restivo. Eric is known for his podcast, Listen Sweetie. He hosts Marioke, the Karaoke Tuesdays at Hamburger Mary's in Wilton, Manors. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be joining the roundtable for my first time.
And I love Marioke. What a clever phrase. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Monday, September 11th. It is 9/11. Let's start this evening's Queer News Tonight with breaking news. Wilton Manors and Florida dominate the 2023 Gay Softball World Series. Minneapolis hosted this week the 2023 Gay Softball World Series. It is the largest single LGBTQ plus week-long sports event in the world, and this year more than 6,000 visitors attended. The event made history as the Minnesota Twins became the first Major League Baseball team to partner with the event in its 46-year history. This year's Gay Softball World Series included more than 225 teams and more than 4,500 participants. Part of the North American Gay Amateur Athletic Alliance, the World Series was represented by 54 member cities. And as expected, Florida, but specifically Wilton Manors, were ablaze in lighting up the North. In D Division, the Pub's Riptide team took first place to become national champions. They defeated Philadelphia's Tasty Cakes, third place Seattle's Revolution D, and fourth place the San Diego Peacocks, along with many other teams from across America. Wilton Manors was not the only national champion. In the E Division, Orlando's Liberty Baggers also took the crown, followed by the Los Angeles team, Atlanta, and Houston. Fort Lauderdale was not yet finished, though. In the Masters C Division, Coalition Alive and Kicking was the national runner-up to the Palm Springs Greyhounds, with Twin Cities Swingers third and Orlando Swag fourth. In the Masters D Division, Fort Lauderdale's Coalition Legends was the national runner-up to Atlanta Daddies, and Orlando's OGs was third, with Dallas Divas fourth. Fort Lauderdale is home to one of the world's largest collection of LGBTQ plus sports leagues, largest number of teams, and greatest number of participants. The Gay Softball's South Florida Amateur Athletic Association is one of the largest leagues in America. It is a symbol of diversity in our community, and Queer News Tonight congratulates all of our winners and participants. I think this is fabulous news. I played a little bit of softball before I realized I couldn't play softball, so I completely understand the D and E division. Very exciting. Boy, people get passionate about it. I love that the bars and other organizations in Wilton Manors support, and the Pub and Hunters and Georgie's don't get in their way, because this is a dog-eat-dog.
They don't play.
They don't play.
Like, I thought it was like, okay, hey, we just drink and we go play softball and it's like all good and fun and I wear a tutu and blah, blah, blah. No, bitch. Like, they are straight up. Like, this is World Series and they don't play. First of all, I thought that softball belonged to the lesbians. I was wrong. Okay? I now know that softball belongs to the gay boys. My apologies. I wasn't there when we gave it over to you, but it's all you, right?
There was a ceremony and everything.
There was a ceremony and I missed it, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think that the name of the team should be more to go with like the gay community, right? Like, it should be like the Bayonne Bottoms and like the Twin City Tops, right? And like the Vegas Verse Crew. That's what I think, that they should probably change the names a little bit. But I love that Fort Lauderdale is like breaking down all kinds of barriers and making softball like as important as it belongs to it, as it needs to be, and kicking some butt, because I know that last year they fell a little short.
Yeah.
And this year they came in like swinging, like they were not leaving without a trophy.
Yeah. And by the way, a little code representation in the Masters division. The Masters division means more mature. Oh. And so, as you can imagine, Lauderdale did very, very well.
That's not surprising.
So much experience in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, that's not so surprising. I mean, listen, there are competitive brunches all over the drive, and you see Wilton Manor show up for the best one. Right. So, no difference here.
Exactly.
I think they want to be more like, they don't want to have false advertising. So, in your example of Twin City Tops, there are only 2 tops in the Twin Cities, so they wouldn't make an entire team.
That's what very
total
funny.
of 2.
With all of the jokes aside, one of the things, when the first time I went to the South Florida Athletic Association, I can't even tell you how many teams we have here. It's a lot. I went, and there are teams that represent everything. There were people where the entire teams were dressed up in fairy outfits to play softball, and they're competitive softball players, but they do it in a very fun and cheek way. And I think it's interesting because there's no one here today to make fun of, wait, you're doing a sports story? It's a wonderful opportunity for us to do a sports story, but have LGBT twist put on it. And so congratulations to everyone, especially the team from the Pub. National champions, you should be celebrating.
Keep rocking those softballs.
That's right. All right, next, let's queer up education. New College of Florida is under federal civil rights investigation after DeSantis takeover. The U.S. Department of Education has launched an investigation into New College of Florida's trustees and administration following a civil rights complaint filed on August 22nd. The DOE's Office of Civil Rights said it plans to investigate New College in Sarasota based on disability discrimination to determine whether it excluded qualified persons with disabilities from participation in, denied them the benefits of, or otherwise subjected them to discrimination in its programs, activities, aids, benefits, or services. The federal agency also plans to investigate whether New College failed to ensure that its communications with individuals with disabilities were as effective as its communications with others. The civil rights complaint filed against New College's leadership also alleges an ongoing trend of discrimination against protected groups such as LGBTQ+ students and the creation of a hostile work environment toward those students. It requested that federal agencies launch a formal investigation into the college's leadership and compel action to remedy damages the complaint claims leaders have caused. New College has been undergoing a conservative transformation since January, when Governor Ron DeSantis appointed a new majority of its Board of Trustees tasked with shaping the small liberal arts school into the, quote, Hillsdale College of the South, end quote. We remind you that Hillsdale College is a private, conservative, Christian liberal arts school in Michigan. The story is very sad to me, and it's been all year long. I grew up in the shadow of New College in Sarasota. My current home is on the north wall of New College in Sarasota. New College was consistently ranked by USA Today, which is among the best ranks of colleges and high schools in America. New College was consistently, as a public institution, rated one of the top colleges for value for money, being a public institution in America. And we are watching a wholesale destruction of the college. It was a small liberal arts program of 800 students in a pass-fail environment. It was the joke of hippie land for decades when it was formed in 1960. But the genius of the school, being right on the bayfront in Sarasota, is these super bright kids would come with super incredible professors teaching in an environment that excelled in so many ways, until it faces the lion against diversity and inclusion, which is our current governor. And as a result, he's made all of these dramatic changes. He has replaced the president of the college, and a lion's share of the percentage of professors have now resigned from the school. It is on track for self-destruction.
He's going to make it into one of that church that he wants from Michigan. He's going to make it into that exact church down here. You know that DeSantis is not going to finish until anybody with any kind of pigment on them is out of the state, right? And anybody who is LGBTQ plus, doesn't go anywhere near a school like this. So someone had to file a claim, right, for this to happen.
That's right.
And so someone could literally said, okay, I'm not being treated just. I'm not given the same opportunities as somebody else. And so now they're going to do this the investigation into it.
Yes.
Will anything come out of this?
Maybe.
That means no. That means no, Al.
Right now, I think chances are probably very good that the governor is going to win this fight, but there is growing momentum of the outcome, and we also have to balance this and remember that the presidential election will have dramatic effects in this instance, because if Donald Trump becomes president, lots of things will happen. If Joe Biden is reelected, the Department of Education and federal monies, etc., become very, very growing difficulty for the state of Florida, because the state of Florida can rule itself like a little land and the king in Tallahassee. But if Joe Biden holds on to the presidency and the Department of Education, for example, the Department of Justice in the different divisions of this discrimination lawsuit claim, the federal government has obviously a lot of power. And so that will check state power in many instances. So the answer is maybe.
Doesn't he have anything else to do with his time than to target this wonderfully individual gem of a college and make it into like a sanctuary of misery? You know, like, aren't there other things
Of misery.
that he can be thinking
That's the
about?
new name
You know,
of them, I think.
that I'm just constantly asking myself why. But I guess hopefully one day we'll get to that.
You know, not to be too tongue-in-cheek, you ask a question that I think really is a great question, and the real answer is the one ray of light in this story. The answer to your question is, doesn't he have anything better to do? Well, shortly, he won't have anything better to do, because the one good thing that's going on here, and my reference to Faye's observation about what would happen next year with the presidential election, he has not been able to export this hate mongering that we've seen in Florida outside of the state. He has no traction on this kind of personality of hate that he is trying to export in Iowa, like over the weekend. And in fact, he's doing much worse today than he was 3 months ago, and much worse than 3 months before that. He's not resignating in the rest of the country. That's the one good thing in this story, is DeSantis is not able to export this out of Florida. So the answer to your question is, does he have anything better to do? No, shortly he won't. He'll be back here in Florida, and that's all he has. That's all he does, is meddle in places like New College.
But we're still here in Florida. We're going to be here. Go, Jacob, take us away.
Oh, thanks for that segue. All right. Well, then thanks, Faye. Let's queer up health. First randomized clinical trial shows gender-affirming care halves suicide rates in trans patients. In recent months, anti-trans activists have targeted gender-affirming care, asserting that evidence supporting it isn't high quality, according to the grades of recommendation, assessment, development, and evaluations systems standards. A system that places a premium on randomized clinical trials. However, scientific experts and federal court judges have found the use of the term high-quality evidence to be highly misleading. In fact, roughly 90% of all medical care lacks high-quality evidence based on this system, but there are no similar calls to ban those medications and procedures. This discrepancy largely stems from the fact that randomized clinical trials are often impractical or unethical for many medications and conditions. Now, researchers in Melbourne, Australia recently conducted the first randomized clinical trial to study the impact of gender-affirming care on transgender individuals. Their findings showed that gender-affirming care led to a reduction of suicidal tendencies in 55% of the treatment group receiving hormones, compared to just 5% in the control group. Researchers in Melbourne, Australia studied 64 trans-masculine individuals who sought testosterone. The participants were randomly split into a treatment group and a control group. The treatment group received their gender-affirming care within a week, while the control group waited 3 months. Both groups were evaluated for suicidality, dysphoria, and depression. 3 months later, they were assessed again. The findings showed that suicidality scores halved for the treatment group, but remained unchanged for the control group. This is not surprising to me, because with our organization, we work a lot with people who are trans, and they're 10.8 times more likely to commit suicide before the age of 25. So seeing that this is the benefit of having actual medicine and tests that say, hey, if you actually give gender-affirming care, it is going to save lives. It actually does save lives. We've known this. This is not news to our community, but at least now we have scientific backing for it.
Yeah, and we need it. And we need that data, unfortunately, right? Because just like Jacob, when I read the story, I was like, duh, right? But it's the truth. But we need the data, because right wing is always like, oh, you guys you chose who you love, and you chose your gender, and you choose whatever you want. That's not the truth. We need this data to show people that this is the authentic lives that we're living, and this is how we got here, you know? But, I think that we've gotten to the point where we're so freaking numb, right? Today's 9/11, okay? We have massacres here and there. We're screaming from the rooftop saying, hey, our children are trying to kill themselves here, right? Please support them. And everybody's just numb about it. Like, okay, yeah, they're kids, whatever. Oh, they won't kill themselves. Guess what? The Trevor Project does a study every single year that says that every single year since they've started, the percentage has gotten up of LGBTQ plus youth, especially trans youth, that have thought or have already tried to end their lives. This is the reality that the LGBTQ plus community is living with every single day. Now they're talking about it.
Yeah.
The 55% to 5% is not a small difference. You know, numbers don't lie. I'm a huge math person. I have been my whole life. So this is important. I agree with you. I think we need the numbers. I just hope that it really does help kind of kick it up a notch into the point where anyone who is going through any sort of transitional period in their life can get the care that they need when it comes to.
I'm curious, Eric, to the observation you just made. The statistics are overwhelming, which is what you're saying. And then you say, gosh, I hope that this will make a difference. What do you think? Will it make a difference? In terms of changing minds, which is Faye's point. They live in this rejection. You make a choice. So these statistics, will they help?
You know, I said before the show that I am not a fake it till I make it kind of guy. I don't think at this point they're going to help. I want them to with my whole body. I just don't think so at this point.
You know, it's interesting to me. And
it's heartbreaking.
That's the reason I start by asking the question before I make the observation. If we connect the dots to the radical wings of our society, evangelicals, radical GOP, which are the two principal, and the Moms for Liberty. Let's put them in the third classification. If you connect the dots between them in various different issues, this is science-based. That's what you just said. The science here now shows. You know, I love Faye just going, the science is duh. No, it's just science. But that duh is beyond so many of these people. You connect that dot to the science of masks, to the science of getting a vaccine, to getting a booster, to that the election was fair. Mm-hmm. You know, all of this scientific evidence is routinely and randomly rejected.
100%.
So as a result, the 55 to 5 of, we're talking about dramatic statistical significance, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to make any difference, because they live in this, you've chosen this, and so therefore you can choose not to. Well, it would be akin in science to saying, I am diabetic, and so therefore I need this diabetic medication. No, you choose to eat the way you do, so therefore you don't need the medication. We would never think from a healthcare perspective to come to a conclusion like that.
No.
That's what we do on trans, which is what's so disappointing about this story. It's overwhelming. It's duh, but nothing's going to come from it.
Sorry, the thing I would think it would be more effective if it came from the United States. Because it's based in Melbourne, they're going to very easily say they didn't get that email, they didn't get the memo, it's done across the country, the continent, the ocean, whatever.
I don't understand Australian.
And Australia.
Australia doesn't exist.
It's not that island.
Fake news.
There it is. All right.
Australia is so much more progressive than we are, especially with LGBTQ rights and where they're going with their politics. I'm really hopeful that those of our brothers and sisters who are paying attention in Australia, congratulations. We wish you the best. Don't forget us. Come and save us over here.
All right.
Next up, let's queer up entertainment. Yes, good news. HBO announces We're Here hosts are being joined by Latrice Royale. Latrice Royale is set to grace TV screens sometime soon in the upcoming 4th season of HBO's hit show We're Here. The exciting news, first shared by Variety, marks a significant shift in the show's lineup. In the forthcoming season, Royale, Priyanka, Sasha Velour, and Jada Essence Hall will step into the limelight, switching things up and breathing new life into the series. The 4 beloved queens will replace the previous trio of hosts, Bob the Drag Queen, Eureka O'Hara, and Shangela, who have been at the helm for the series' first 3 seasons. In addition to changing the host, We're Here has also undergone a transformation when it comes to the format of the show as well. In previous seasons, the queens traveled to a different city in each episode in an effort to spread their own signature brand of drag. That worked well for the series, but season 4 will not follow the same path. For the next run of episodes, the show will pivot its focus, instead dedicating 6 episodes to just 2 small towns in the U.S. This change promises to provide viewers with a more in-depth exploration of local political landscapes, participants, anti-LGBTQ plus legislation, and the challenges faced by the queer community in these areas. So far, where the queens will go to help people understand drag queens has not been revealed yet. I am so happy about this, okay, because I was so upset when they had changed the crew. Al knows this, right? I was like, what the hell, you know? And so I was mad, and not that I have anything wrong against the new queens that are coming in, but I just felt like they needed something. They needed a little pizzazz. They needed a little personality. And what? Bring in hometown girl Latrice to do the job, baby. What? Prison makes us hard. What? I can't wait to see this. This is what I needed. I cannot wait. Now you have inspired me to see We're Here again. Now, let's talk about the old queens, okay? Eureka has a drug problem. She can't stay out of rehab. Shangela has issues with dancing in her feet. And, you know, that little thing that happened with that boy there. And Bob the drag queen, hello, when Madonna calls, you say bye-bye, RuPaul. So, of course, they had to replace the queens with other queens. I'm just saying that this is a great addition. Nobody else needs to comment. I'm done.
Mic drop. Wow.
I was going to say, listen, I love just seeing drag queens on my television. Like, it's something that I'll never get sick of, right? But I agree with you. I think that the three hosts from the first 3 seasons might need to, what does Ru say? If you don't love yourself first, you can't love anybody else. You maybe got to work on yourself.
Wow, we are reading today. Wow,
There's a little shade happening right now.
Face at the tone.
Right?
I don't know if anyone's ever going to call RuPaul and say, bye-bye, girl. I mean, thank you for giving my start, but I might say thank you very much, Madonna, and change their mind.
I mean, Madonna money is...
I mean, Madonna
money.
I mean,
I'd call Ru.
think about that.
I'm curious to ask all of you at the table, this modification change of the show, I loved We're Here. As a drag aficionado of cheerleader, for the community, I thought it was excellent in going to the different cities. This modification of cast change and format change, it's like launching a whole new product. Do you think that that's a successful?
I think it's strategic. I think it's very strategic. I think that if you look at what RuPaul did when she began her plight into stardom, she knew where she was going. It was going to be a long game. And with what she's done with RuPaul's Drag Race has actually created conversations. It's made drag mainstream. It's actually changed the culture in an entertaining way where people can relate to drag. I think doing this show puts it in a more localized, boots on the ground type of mentality where people can actually relate to these drag queens individually, and the cast that they now have, all of their YouTube channels, not that I am a huge fan or anything. Yeah, me too. I buy into it. They have been able to be more, I will say, subtly political and be effective in what they're doing at like a grassroots level. If you watch their stuff on Instagram, I think it's brilliant what they're doing, because you need to have people out there really getting into the weeds and showing people that our community is about love and the art of drag.
Do y'all agree with that?
I don't at all. I love you, Jacob. I don't want to be in a freaking town for 6 weeks. I don't want you to be in 2 towns for 6 weeks. That's boring to me. I loved that, and We're Here, like, you know, because we are such a crap shit here in Florida, they had to do 2 episodes on us, right? Yeah. You know, I got that, but that was a good time. Like, they're there a week, they get everything done in a week, and then we get to see it. I think it's too long at each of these cities. Yeah. That's just my own personal opinion. It's just a lot. You're not going to Vegas and showing me the plight of people in Vegas. You're going to Ho-Punk, Idaho. We don't
know where they're going
we don't know. When the building show on ABC where they'd build the house, if they were in the same town every week, we wouldn't have been as interesting. They're going to different places of having different kinds of people, and the backdrop of the story is the locale that they're at. So they're taking a risk. They're taking a risk. Well, one last thing before we move on, talking about Latrice. I was in the Faye camp. Not so much. Even with the shady read that Faye gave on the original cast, it was a situation where the cast change, it was like, I'm not so sure. And then, this idea of we're going to focus on just a couple of communities and they're going to be small towns and blah, blah, blah. I'm not so sure. It's really interesting in your observation of it's a strategic change, because when we were talking about it, Latrice was not in the picture. I could not help but wonder, wait, did they have Faye and Al kind of response all over the country? We need to add more, and Latrice became the more. Now, I'm totally guessing. I have absolutely no idea. But whatever the conclusion is, boy, it's a good addition.
Yep.
Because you get hard in jail. That's a really good joke. And let's go back to I think she was season 4. She's large and she's in charge.
Yep.
And she is a unique presence to go into some of these small towns. She looks different. She sounds different. She has different experience. And going into Pudunk, small town, Idaho, or wherever they're going to end up going, Latrice is going to be a standout. And as a result, there's going to be reaction to Latrice, and that's going to be super interesting. So the show has probably made the right decision. And go girl, she's South Florida. So we love that too.
I'd say it's pretty unanimous at the round table that we'll all be watching season 4 of
that is really funny because Faye says the same thing I'm thinking of. I love it. I love it. But I wasn't so much. And now it's like, oh, wait, I've got to go back to We're Here this year. So they made the right choice. They got us back.
Renew your HBO Max subscription for the new season of We're Here. All right, next, let's queer up travel. 2 new LGBTQ plus resorts open in Vegas, expanding the gay district. A portion of downtown's boutique Thunderbird Hotel became something new over the Labor Day holiday weekend when a combination restaurant, drag brunch show, gaming lounge, and gay nightclub made its September 1st debut. But all of that is only the first phase of the plans to eventually turn the property into an LGBTQ plus resort. And there's another gay resort setting up for a fall opening in the downtown area. Queen Las Vegas bills itself as the first LGBTQ plus property on the Strip, but its Las Vegas Boulevard location at the retro-styled Thunderbird technically sits between the Strip and downtown Fremont's street area. Q Group Hospitality is renovating 28 of the hotel's 100 rooms, with plans to make them available this fall under the Queen banner. Q Group founder Eduardo Cordova is a local gay nightlife fixture who opened the popular arts district bar, The Garden, in 2020 and hosts and promotes the Strip's leading gay pool party, Temptation Sundays, at Lexor. Definitely been there a few times. Working in phases, he launched the full-scale nightclub with bottle service, DJs, and new LED lighting over Labor Day weekend. The Bent Inn is also scheduled to open in October as the first adults-only LGBTQ-focused, gay-owned resort in Las Vegas. It will have 33 rooms, a large courtyard with a pool and oversized hot tub, and a gastropub on the property. And it will cater to visitors looking for a different and very welcoming experience. What do we think about 2 new resorts in the Las Vegas area? Do we get out to Las Vegas a lot here, guys?
I love Las Vegas,
Yeah.
but I know Trixie Mattel right now is going, damn it, I missed it. Why did I make that motel renovation in Casa La Pinga? I should have gone to Vegas. No, I love this. And the guy Edgardo, right? He Cordova. He also does a temptation pool party like Eric
Luxor,
said.
yes.
And that party is everything. You
Wildly
know?
successful.
And I believe that was like the first thing that like really catapulted the gay community in Vegas as of recent, like after pandemic times. You know what I mean? Where now it's like we're out, we're proud, we're partying. I mean, those pool parties are epic. You've been out, right? I mean, and packed. Like you can't even get in.
And they survived the pandemic. You know, it was a Temptation Sunday pool party before pandemic came. Pandemic happened, and it opened back up and seamlessly, to be fair.
Yeah.
Mr. Cordova is definitely a community builder and very handsome. That outfit was amazing. But he actually, sorry, just saying, we're all thinking it. But the fact that he's actually been able to do this with his nightclubs and actually is building more and more with 2 nights. Oh, this is wonderful. I cannot wait to go back to Vegas. And hi, how you doing? He's back there.
Yeah, like we've come a long way. Like I remember going to Vegas and there was just this one bar called Gypsy, right? Like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever. And like now, slowly but surely, we're getting our own little gay area. Like, how cool is that?
You hit, in my opinion, what's the really interesting thing in conversation about LGBT in Vegas. Vegas, the only city in the world that rivals Disney Orlando is Las Vegas. It's the only city in the world that rivals Orlando because of Disney. In terms of the number of rooms, in terms of restaurant, shopping, experiences, Vegas competes with the theme parks and then the luxury all the way to budget hotels. Tremendous LGBT presence in Orlando for years and years and years. Gay Days have gone on for 30-some years. Las Vegas was never that. And when you mentioned in the 90s, there was the small little LGBT hotel, like I apologize, I can't even remember the name from a historical perspective, about 6 blocks off of the Strip. There was not a big gay bar presence. The city, 20 years ago was a major American city at plus 1 million people, and virtually no gay experience. Las Vegas Pride was late,
lame
to the national calendar. Vegas was a disconnect in every way. So every story that we see about LGBT in Las Vegas is a good story and growing, because LGBT should have a very significant presence in the city. And we already do. It's hospitality. So who do you think is running
we run that
city?
The queers.
Yes, exactly. In restaurant, theater production.
RuPaul's Drag Race has their
Every single show, yeah.
By the way, there's like 94 Cirque shows.
Yeah.
Who do you think are in these shows? And we didn't have a strong LGBT presence. So that's the great thing.
We were all in Palm Springs.
We were all going to
Thanks,
Palm
Tracy Mattel.
Oh, I will always pick Palm Springs over Vegas.
Oh, it's me. Next, let's queer up sports. The first openly gay NFL player, Carl Nassib, announces retirement. Veteran pass rusher Carl Nassib, who in 2021 became the NFL's first openly gay player to play in a regular season game, announced his retirement after 7 seasons. A third-round pick by Cleveland in 2016, Nassib spent 2 years with the Browns. The edge rusher then played 2 seasons with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, during which he generated 12.5 sacks. Nassib signed with the Las Vegas Raiders in 2020, where he played 2 campaigns before rejoining the Bucs for 13 games last year. In 2021, Nassib became the first active NFL player to come out as gay. His story inspired others. Nassib closes his NFL career with 25.5 sacks, 59 quarterback hits, 187 tackles, 4 forced fumbles, and an interception. During the announcement, he said, "This is a bittersweet moment for him." After just over 100 NFL games he played throughout his career. Nassib also emphasized the importance of providing support and love to LGBTQ youth. After his retirement, he will be working for his company Raise, which is an innovative app that connects people with nonprofit organizations. More work for the queer community can be expected in the coming years from his end. I know nothing about football. I don't know anything about
You
sacks,
sounded like you knew everything.
I dropped my voice. Congratulations, Mr. Nassib. But no, I'm really excited to see what he's going to be doing with his platform and connecting community members with the nonprofits. That's really exciting to me. That part I can speak to that part. That part sounds great.
Like you had me at sack.
Can they still wear the pants if they retire?
Probably.
I hope the
They probably could.
I mean, that would make sense, right?
So how long do usual basketball players last?
Yeah, that's a funny joke.
Okay. How long do people play in the NFL for? Seriously.
Well,
NFL basketball?
Yeah.
No, stop it.
Oh.
Like, okay, he's only been like 7 years, right? Like, is that normal? Like, is that a long career? Like, did he literally come out and then just say, peace, I'm going to stop playing?
Yeah,
They take a beating, no?
Yeah, they do
those bodies take a beating.
But 12, 15 seasons.
Aside from coming out, what else has he done for our community? I know that he gave $100,000 to Trevor Project last year.
Yeah, no,
But he's worth like $15 million.
Yes, he's voiced up for community significantly. And one of the things that I would point out is Outsports, for example, which I think is our top representation in talking about sports in the world for LGBT. They would say that Carl Nassib is a big story in and of itself. His presence is a big story because representation matters.
Mm-hmm.
We've said this, you've said it 1,000 times. His representation in his field really, really matters because the NFL was one of the last, old boy toxic masculinity homes. And they have, and the NFL has worked very hard to try to diversify that. It's difficult when players don't come out and say, I represent my community. The NFL's pushed it along, and there have been some after they retire. that come out, and that circle of people have helped the NFL. Carl Nassib is important because he comes out as a player. The idea, would players try to hurt him on the field? Would players try to discriminate against him in the locker room? Would I shower with a Carl Nassib? Simple, silly questions, right? But see,
No, but
joke,
it's the truth, though.
that joke is
It's
the
not
problem, because and right, exactly, I get it, but
it is.
But that's why
But
this
that's it.
story is a big deal, because he did it and takes dramatic risk. I'm sure we're going to hear more from him in terms of this transition, like to the question of the 7 seasons, because I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah.
But this is a big story. It really is a big story. And it's also a big story because the big stereotype is, for women, the stereotype is you get married instantly and you have the U-Haul. The big story for gay men is we know nothing about sports ball. We've made that joke in this story. That's not true. It's a stereotype. And in this instance, he helped break boundaries for our community.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And it's a wait and see what'll be next.
All of us we grew up and people were watching sports and they would idolize their players and they wanted to go into sports. We didn't have anybody representing us, so we did not go into it. We went to theater, went to the arts, went to places where we felt safe.
Well,
the fact that he makes people feel safe,
and to
we should
your
hopefully have more
point,
gay athletes.
25 years ago, you couldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
You could not play football. You just couldn't because you just couldn't. So what do? You sing. You wait in a restaurant. You become a flight attendant. You X and Y and Z.
Or you stay in the closet.
Or you stay in the closet. Right.
It's also brilliant he's going into tech. I just want to point that out because that is the next wave. Well, he has his app.
That's the app is a little sketchy to me, to be fair. It's
Why
like
so?
Why, you don't believe that people should be connected with
nonprofits?
nonprofits
Oh no, I
in
do.
their
I
areas?
do.
Or-
I just don't know if it's going to be like fully successful. I believe.
You think it's a front for a new Grindr?
I don't think it's a front for a Grindr. I just think that he might be coming out again, out of retirement to play again. I don't know if the app is going to really supersede what he did on the field. I think it's amazing, but do I think it's the next career choice? Probably not.
89% of athletes, professional athletes, end up bankrupt within 5 years from when they retire. Did you know that? 89
to
end up bankrupt within 5
That
years
makes
of
sense,
leaving
What
their
else can they do with the
professional.
job?
Yes. So the fact that he's actually out there stating it, there are some exceptions that have gone out there. But I think this is one of them because he's going into tech. The ones that have been successful have all gone into tech in some capacity lately. So it's very interesting. So I'm excited to be just.
You know a lot about sports
Yeah,
players
see?
to not know a lot about sports.
I mean, I'm not just a
Sports
fan.
Well, above all else, we congratulate Carl
Yes.
Yes.
Nassib
Nassib.
because his representation for our community in this lane, we're everything. And he is the representation of a lane that was never happened.
He carved it.
For him, exactly.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church right here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we're broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
We finish tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
In LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up entertainment. Lady Gaga uses her Vegas residency as a platform to support the trans community. Renowned pop sensation Lady Gaga is using her Las Vegas residency as a platform to reaffirm her status as a beloved queer icon. She's always been very vocal about her love and support of the LGBTQ plus community, and that certainly isn't changing now that trans people are under attack like never before. The pop superstar is in the middle of another run of her jazz and piano residency, during which she chose to include her single Born This Way, which all LGBTQ plus people know well. During a moment captured on video from the show, Gaga sat at her piano and spoke to the crowd saying, quote, "I've got something to say about trans rights in this country. When you've got something to say, you've got to speak up, right?" End quote. This comment was met with applause and cheers.
I've got something to say about trans rights in this country. I love you too. When you got something to say, you gotta speak up, right? My mama told me when I was young, we are all born superstars. She rolled my hair, put my in the glass of her boudoir. There's nothing wrong with loving who you are, she said, 'cause he made you perfect, babe.
In LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up health. The Missouri Department of Health removes LGBTQ plus resources from its website. The Missouri Republican-led state administration began deleting resources for queer kids from its health department website when GOP legislators plan to pass more anti-LGBTQ plus legislation than anywhere else in the country. Earlier in January, Lisa Cox, spokesperson for the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, instructed the agency's website team to remove links from its teen and adolescent health information page. According to emails, the scrubbed resources are linked to Missouri's sexual health providers, LGBTQ plus youth groups, and other organizations that provide information on sexual health.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up the worldview. New film looks to increase trans acceptance in Poland. The makers of Woman Of, which follows a man transitioning to a woman in socially conservative Poland, hope their film will help ease deep-rooted prejudices in the Roman Catholic nation. Woman Of had its world premiere at the Venice Film Festival just a month ahead of parliamentary elections that might hand Poland's ruling nationalist Law and Justice Party an unprecedented third term in power. Critics have accused the party of fanning anti-LGBTQ plus sentiment. The director said she wanted Woman Of to change the debate around transgender issues.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up courts. Hong Kong's High Court requires same-sex marriages be recognized. Hong Kong's top court ruled in favor of recognizing same-sex partnerships, saying in its judgment that the absence of legal recognition has been seen to be essentially discriminatory and demeaning to same-sex couples. It marked the latest in a long series of litigations surrounding LGBTQ plus issues, as same-sex couples in the city have been forced to carve out rights from laws often ruled as discriminatory since the city decriminalized sexual acts between gay men in 1991. LGBTQ rights remain one of the areas in which the city stands apart from the mainland China, where same-sex sexual acts have been legal since 1997, but recent years have seen a crackdown on the community.
In LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up business. Nearly half of Grindr employees resign after remote work policy ends. Work from home became a worldwide norm in the wake of the pandemic. Since COVID-19 no longer qualifies as a global emergency, companies are asking their staff to return to the workplace. However, not everyone is comfortable with the idea. Nearly half of LGBTQ plus dating app Grindr's employees have resigned after they were told to return to the office. In a strict mandate, the company told employees to start work in the office 2 days a week from October or face dismissal after August 31st. About 80 of Grindr's 178 employees declined to relocate and were forced to resign. Many of these employees were initially hired to work remotely, but they were asked to move to designated hub cities, including New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience, watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including FayWhat, Jacob Reide Jennings, and DJ Eric Restivo, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. But before we end our show, we have one final story. Now we're going to queer up education. Safe Schools fights for LGBTQ plus History Month in Miami-Dade, but loses. The organization Safe Schools works to create safer schools where all students can learn and thrive regardless of real or perceived sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression, their own or that of their parents or guardians. This week, the Miami-Dade School Board considered a motion to recognize October LGBTQ plus History Month. Safe Schools spoke at the board meeting to argue for the inclusion of the recognition of LGBTQ plus History Month. What was near unanimous approval up to 2021 has now failed again for the second year. Afterwards, members of Safe Schools discussed what happened in their most recent episode of Safe Schools Rainbow Roundtable.
Students and teachers react to Miami-Dade School Board voting no on LGBTQ plus History Month. This week, the Miami-Dade County School Board had a combative meeting to decide if one of America's largest school districts will continue the annual October LGBTQ plus History Month program. The packed meeting had many outside the hall watching the proceedings. In previous years, the school board had near unanimous support for the vital education, diversity, and inclusion event. But this year, the school board meeting met significant political opposition, like what we are witnessing around Florida and some conservative areas around the country. Board member Lucia Baez-Gallard sponsored a proposal to recognize October as LGBTQ plus History Month. What was clear is that the Miami-Dade County School Board has a different interest in diversity and inclusion. The school board attorney cleared the proposal as legal. After extensive speakers and board debate, the school board voted 5-3 to not have the annual event next month. The board members who voted no claimed they were concerned it would violate the parental rights in education law. These were Chairwoman Mary Tere Rojas, Vice Chair Danny Espino, Roberto Alonso, Mary Blanco, and Monica Colucci. LGBTQ plus organizations like Equality Florida and PRISM were present. Safe Schools Executive Director Scott Galvin and Board Member Chairman Tom Lander both passionately spoke. Watch this.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Scott Galvin. I am the Executive Director of Safe Schools South Florida, and I'm also on the North Miami City Commission. I've been there for 25 years. As such, I am the longest-serving openly LGBTQ legislator in the state of Florida. So I'm here today, a lot of conversation that I've heard, it's made me feel very disconcerted, and it's made me want to strike out with mean things and bad language. But a lot of the people who have spoken before me have already said those hurtful things. So I'll just say that...
The clock is not working, Mr. Superintendent, sir. One moment, please. Mr. Superintendent, please. The clock. It's on. All right, go ahead.
The clock is running, though,
Yes.
because the youth that I'm going to step aside for to let them speak and cede my time to, they are gay, and they're still going to be here even after we leave this room. This item is to talk about contributions of LGBTQ people in history. We can't erase what they've done. You can't erase what my generation has done and stood for. You will not erase our students. Please find it in your conscience to vote yes on H11. Thank you.
The law requires teachers to teach the Florida state standard curriculum. They might have changed the name. That's required. That is the curriculum that teachers teach during every month. Honest teachers teach hard history, brave literature, excellent drama, great science. But my question is, some teachers are afraid to do that today, and some are leaving the classroom. But what happens when a student then chooses a topic to give a PowerPoint on? What if they decide to write an essay that gets read to the class? What if they do a public speech? Will they be chastised now by their teachers that that's inappropriate even during this month? What do we do with the life of James Baldwin, the author? Because you can't understand his writing without knowing who he is. Or Alvin Ailey, choreographer. Barbara Jordan, the first African-American elected to Texas Congress from her state. Alan Turing, the computer scientist. King James, who got the Bible written. Pretty well known that he also had an alternative lifestyle. Sir Francis Bacon, scientific method. Leonardo da Vinci lived as an openly gay man. Astronaut Sally Ride. In government, do we talk about the civil rights laws? Do we teach true African American history? Or do we do falsehoods and try to play both sides? In psychology, I grew up thinking that I had a mental problem, because it wasn't until 1973, the year I graduated, that homosexuality was not considered a mental illness. What are we teaching our students? I'm not mentally ill. I am crazy. Everybody can certify that. But I taught for 40 years. I showed love to my students, and I spoke truth to power.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker.
At Safe Schools, we are so proud of the leadership that we have, and the fact that both Scott and Tom really spoke their heart out and spoke truth to power is something that is not only incredible, but that I know many, many other queer kids around Miami-Dade County and those that are following this around the world are really paying attention to right now.
So let me give you some context. So this is I believe the second time they have voted this down. They voted it down last year as well. The previous year, it did pass. However, the difference here is the change in makeup when it comes to the politicians who sit on the school board. You may remember the makeup changed drastically after the last election, where the governor endorsed two of the current school board members that are now sitting there,
Right.
and two additional ones he appointed because of vacancies on the board, which means that you have 4 solid conservative members on the school board, and then 4 typically liberal-leaning school board members. So the thought was that this time around, maybe we could see the chair, Maritere Rojas, swing one way or the other. She chose once again to swing to the more conservative side. As you know, she is related to Congressman Carlos Jimenez, for those who don't know out there. So there is that alliance there, if you will, if you want to argue in terms of politics.
Yeah, and she made a whole speech of that voting no does not mean that she's voting or they're voting against LGBTQ plus people. But the truth is that yes, it doesn't mean that, but it does mean that for the kids that are looking at you, for the future generations that will look back at this time and be like, what were you voting for? Because I feel like what they have done is they have turned our LGBTQ plus kids into a political tool and are only utilizing politics instead of like looking at these kids as a whole, looking at queer people as a whole, and allowing for the recognition that we are here, that we exist, just as Scott said. We will be here after this vote. We're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. So what is really going on? Like what is really going on behind all of this conversation?
And just to be clear, this was just a vote to recognize LGBTQ month. It was not going to change any sort of lesson plan.
History Month.
History Month, yes. Sorry. It wasn't going to change any sort of lesson plan. Teachers were not going to be told to switch out anything that they had already previously said they were going to teach. It was only to recognize gay people exist, they will continue to exist, and they have existed, and we should recognize it.
Yeah.
So the misinformation that came in, that a lot of people went into this meeting spewing, really influenced, and it's unfortunate that the chairwoman couldn't, it's not a vote against it, but you're basically telling your high school, your students that are gay in your district that, I don't want to recognize that you're there, you exist.
There's two things. One, the school board used to approve it, yes. What teaching about LGBTQ History Month was, they put out a memo saying these are 30 LGBTQ queer heroes, and you do what you want with them. You ignore it, or you incorporate it in your classroom, or you put it school-wide, you do something. That was it. It wasn't like, we're going to stop what we're doing, and we're going to teach about gay history and gay this. So it's like, this person, it's just the same thing we do with Latin American history or Hispanic history and African American history. We highlight people who belong to that community. And that was it. That was all that was done. As a teacher, we would get the list and we could just put it up there, and that would be all you have to do. Just put it up on your board. And if you wanted to do a research paper, extra credit or something, you could do that. The second thing is, by voting no, you can't be an ally and vote against the community.
Right.
So yes, she may say that voting no doesn't mean we don't support, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
If you are voting against us, you're hurting your students, you're hurting our kids, you're hurting our community. And so that logic of, it doesn't mean that I don't accept you. That's exactly what it means.
Yeah, they're just trying to still seem approachable by those. It's like a vote.
Right.
You're just trying to seem as neutral as possible, but really, like, your actions are showing your true colors. And so it's like, if that's how it is, might as well just, like,
Just say it.
Just say it.
Yeah.
Let's address the elephant in the room. Like, you really don't care. And you can't keep saying that I do care, but I just can't support you. It's like, then you don't care.
Yeah, you don't care.
Yeah.
Then you don't really care.
What I found very problematic about that school board meeting was the amount of Christian rhetoric that was shown. And I have a hard time saying Christian rhetoric because I myself, I'm a Christian, I'm a pastor, and that's not me. That's not who I am. That's not the church that I have and the church that I belong to. And I know many other Christians that don't feel that way, but these people came up there, started talking about Jesus, the Bible. I mean, some guy even started talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, and I'm like, these are just biblically illiterate people that are hiding behind the Bible to push their hatred, to push their own false beliefs, and it's just it was very disheartening to see that happen. And the fact that the people that were against this were all spouting some crazy Christian belief. They were all spouting some part of the Bible. They were all talking about Jesus. They were all talking about the country and freedom and Jesus and guns and Jesus and all these other things and Jesus. And I'm like, Jesus would not have been here voting for these things right now.
And the other thing that baffles me is that they talk about how introducing just this month to recognize is indoctrinating our kids and teaching our kids. And if you talk to your kids about being gay, that means they're going to be gay, like all this. And yet they're trying to put PragerU in our school system, in our school, like being taught to our kids. Are you seriously telling me that the ultra right-wing PragerU is not going to indoctrinate our kids when they're minimizing things such as slavery? And, you know, so like if we really want to talk about indoctrination, it's coming from them. It's not coming from us.
Yes,
we just want to recognize gay people exist, and they're going to continue to exist.
I didn't have gay history, and guess what? I'm gay.
They just disappear. We're not talking about it.
And when you read signs, they had this huge sign outside that says, when it's time to bring the Bible and prayer back into the schools, it's like, that is indoctrination. You are literally indoctrinating kids by bringing your form of Christianity, your flavor of Christianity, your specific way of being Christian into the schools. Where it doesn't belong.
Because we have many faiths represented in our public schools, so why are we pushing one faith? Why do you get to say, oh, my faith is better than the Muslim faith, the Jewish faith, the Buddhist faith, the atheist? Why do you get such a big voice?
Well, because most of those parents or, you know, the adults that are, again, older generation, come from a conservative background. So they're literally trying to put in as much laws and like legislations and all these rules and regulations because they're realizing that the younger generation, my generation, everyone like younger than I am, they're a lot more accepting. They don't care. They see two people together that are the same sex and they're like, okay, like you love each other. That's great. They don't, it doesn't bother them. And so they can't fathom that society is turning its page. We're going to a more open, inclusive route. And so that scares them because they are not open and inclusive. And that would require them to then like realize, do a lot of self-realization of like, oh, wow, there's a lot of problems that I personally have with these people. And then guess what? The thing is that if you can't acknowledge that and you're doing all these things to hurt a specific group of people, and the more you do this, again, using the Bible as a cover story, basically, just to put like, you know, hateful rhetoric out into the public. And then the thing is that then they say like, oh, but, you know, I support you, but I can't, you know, vote for you. So then it's like, you just don't want to be the bad guy. And you don't want to realize that your actions are hurting a lot more people. And then people don't want to be around you. And you're isolating yourself and they don't want that.
Like,
you know?
like I think about it as a parent, and like, if my child were to be gay, like, I'm like, it's inconceivable to me that I would ever look at them any differently. And it's like this fear that they have this like deep-seated faith, but it's such a faith that is going to just alienate everyone around them. That is not exactly how they want them to be. Like I just don't understand how we could be in the so-called quote unquote free state of Florida and they're putting all these restrictions all over everything we do and how we could think and what we're reading and what we're being taught. And it's just mind-boggling to me how far it's come, you know, because of a fear of retaliation from our government. Because let's be real, a lot of these members also voted because A, they were appointed by DeSantis, and B, even if they weren't, they don't want to go against what he's saying, you know? So, you know, it's really sad to see how it's gone because it was passed 2 years ago. So it's just a phenomenon that's happened just so recently where we should be more accepting, and we're becoming less and less accepting as time goes on.
Yeah, Florida has become a freer state for the few, and not for the many. And you talked about, you know, our public schools representing many faith and many walks of life, but it's not even the fact that those children represent that rainbow of humanity. It's also our taxpayer, like our taxes pay for the system. And to see one group of people trying to not just take it, but then wanting to take our money and fund private schools, it's like you can't have it both ways. Either you leave the public school system alone and you go to your private schools with our money, or you go to your own private schools. If you can afford it, sorry, too bad. That's not my problem. I don't know.
The new law that parents get to choose where their kids go. Well, you know, and then the money follows the kids. So the money that used to go to public school now goes with the kid to wherever. And if the kid goes to private school, then that's kind of where the money goes. And the idea that it's, you know, parents' rights and parents. Well, what about your right as a parent to have your kid learn the history that you want and the lessons that you want? Why do you get excluded?
Yeah, that's exactly the point where, you know, my husband and I talk about this, where, you know, why are they deciding what my kid gets taught? Like, where did this power play come from where they're taking over and they're deciding what my kid, and then not only that, I'm willing to bet money that a lot of them don't even have kids in public schools. They pulled them out and put them in private schools, and they're just going there to make a stink and say all these things to fear monger. And that affects my kid because I'm a very big supporter of public schools. My kids are in public schools. They will continue to be in public schools because I believe in the public school system. And I just see it being eroded slowly by these parents that have amassed this power. And in that power, they just want to be bigoted and they just want to control. And there's nothing moral about their desire to control everything our kids get taught. To me, it's actually infuriating to me to see like how much power they've amassed and how much, there's nothing free about their radical interpretation of what morality and freedom is, because it's not freedom for me. It's not freedom for any of you. It's not freedom for my kids when they're being chained to being taught eventually maybe a PragerU, which, God, if I ever find out that my kids get PragerU, I'm going to raise hell because that's where, I kind of I have to draw the line as a parent and, use my voice as a parent and as scary as it can be, because to be what's sadly a minority voice to help the majority of the people who support the LGBTQ community, it's scary to put yourself out there because there's so much pushback and so much vitriol and so much like fear mongering and intimidation that it's like, but if you don't do it, who's going to do it? If I don't speak up for my kids and I don't speak up for their education, who is?
Yeah.
No, yeah. I think also like you have people, again, we're at a point in like history where we can't just have like someone be of two different parties, just have a conversation. It becomes violent. It becomes threats. Then it's like, because you are for, gay rights, and you try to speak out, like as a parent, speaking out. And if you don't have enough people backing you up, like you'll get singled out and you'll get death threats. You'll have people like do horrible things to you. And like, that's just, it's a terrifying notion because it's like, where did the humanity go in people? Like how did we get to this point that because we don't see eye to eye, it's now violence. It's now threats. It's like basically demoralizing another person. And it's like, as an adult, that's already hard enough. Could you imagine kids that are comfortable with, their sexuality and that, they know like I'm gay, and you have adults who will see that and be so threatened by a child and
we should do more of what Safe Schools motto is, which is teaching respect for all.
But I also think this all highlights the importance of local elections. And I think oftentimes, repetitively, we sort of overlook the importance that they play. Yeah. It's not just about electing presidents, but about electing school board members, state house members, and people that you think, whether you're on the left or the right, that you agree with on what their politics should be. We forget that often. We do. It makes a huge difference. Your city council member makes probably more of a difference in your daily life that the president does.
Yeah, absolutely.
True. And as teachers, I think it's important that we teach our students how important their vote is, especially because these are kids who are graduating high school, and some of them are scared to vote because they don't even know how to do it, because it's their first time. But going back to LGBT, the History Month, it's sad because a lot of kids that are LGBTQ plus think they're being erased too, because I see it at school,
Yeah, these kids are who had a voice are being shut down. They don't feel part of the system, part of the society, just because I don't matter anymore. Can I discuss about it? Can we not discuss about it? And then how do teachers navigate that? As a teacher, it's hard. As a gay teacher, it's hard because I want to be someone my kids can see as an example of, oh wow, he's there. I'm just teaching. I'm just doing my job. But I want them to know that there's representation. Representation matters. But as a teacher, can I cover these things? Can I not cover things? What's gonna, is someone going to complain? You know, is someone going to complain, and what will that mean for me as a teacher?
Right.
And it's so vague out there that it sometimes it's scary.
I agree with Frank too, because sometimes, you know, you're just being yourself and you might say something and you're like, there's 30 kids in your class. There might be one that it bothered them and you can get in trouble for whatever you said.
It's like that one mom in Hialeah that got like a bunch of books banned. I think it was in Hialeah, Miami Lakes High School. And it wasn't that she had read the books. She just was literally copy pasting what Moms of Liberty was saying about these books. You know, no ability to discern the information, to look, to seek out, no curiosity to see, wait a minute, this book doesn't seem, you know, none of that. It was just like straight up like injecting them with the indoctrination and then just copying, pasting what they were saying. And it's very scary because especially in your profession where you could have just 29 kids that are totally okay with everything you're saying, but you have that one and they go to their parents. And then those are the parents that come and complain. And then
that's where they're hearing at home.
Exactly.
You know,
so it's very scary, you know, for you guys. And I feel for you, honestly, because you're extremely brave to be putting your faces and voices and making sure that kids know that they have you guys. You know, it's difficult. And I do appreciate that. I know that at least as my kids are growing up, they're going to have teachers like you guys. You know.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you're such a supportive parent. Like, you kind of remind me of my sister. And that sense, because my niece and nephew, one is 6, the other one's 9. And it's funny because my sister told me, and my nephew was like, do you guys know Weezer, the band?
Yeah.
There's a song that it mentions the word lesbian. And he's like, Mom, what's a lesbian? So she's like, let me just tell him, my way, because he's just turned 9. Instead of him having to look up what the word is.
Exactly.
You know, it's just two people.
But that's how it begins at home. You know, when they have those questions, you answer it honestly so they don't feel the need, you know, to seek it out elsewhere, that they have a trusted parent that they can ask these questions
Imagine
to.
if he Googles it.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what she's like, I'm going to tell him right now. You know? She just talked about love, you know, like a boy and a boy can, you know, they can love, a girl and a girl.
Part of my issue with what happened at the school board was that a lot of the people who spoke are not even from the city.
Yeah.
They came in, they got something, you know, Moms of Liberty or whatever put out a message, or whoever put out a message out, and they came and they signed up because that's the type of
it's a public comment.
It's a public comment. Anybody can come, and then they say their comments, but there is no there's no questioning them. There's no saying, no, you're wrong, and that's misinformation, that's wrong information. They just get to speak. So then, again, they don't even belong to this district, to this county, and they're coming to
directly influence
or have kids in school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Media literacy.
There you go.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ plus evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ plus community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.